All right, let's introduce Angela Reid, political strategist and principal at Impact Strategies. So, Angie, you obviously know the members of the Congressional Black Caucus very well as their former counsel. What do you think of this idea of sitting down with Paul Ryan and then coming out and doing a presser on that today? What, in your estimation, what was the goal of doing this?
Well, Joy, it was twofold. One was Paul Ryan really needs to be accountable to his remarks, and what better entity to hold him accountable than 43 African-American members of Congress known as the conscience of the Congress. They have introduced policies and bills since their founding to ensure that the voiceless have a voice and they have advocates. So Paul Ryan needed to be accountable not only to these members but to all of Congress, all of his colleagues in Congress, and all of the country, in part because it's not just reflective in what he said, Joy, it's also reflective in the policies that he's pushing in his budget or not pushing in his budget, right? He's been on this listening tour throughout the country, listening to issues that people that are lower income face. He's had this hearing today, a war on poverty hearing today, and yet we still haven't seen anything come to bear that reflects policies that would help to lift people out of their circumstances. So today he heard from the members of the CBC urging him to do just that. One takeaway that I've heard about already is Congressman Clyburn has been pushing an initiative for some time now called the 10-20-30 plan. Paul Ryan, from what I understand, is urging the Budget Committee to hear from the CBC on that, and I think he'll meet more in depth both with Mr. Clyburn and with Congresswoman Fudge to talk about it. The 10-20-30 plan would direct 10% of federal public resources to communities that have people living at the 20% of the people living at or below the poverty line for the last 30 years. So I think it's a step forward, but there is a whole lot more work to do with these $5.1 trillion in his budget that was passed by the House just last week.
And what you just said about 10-20-30 is actually the most hopeful thing that I've heard like in the last 10 minutes, because when I was listening to the Congresswoman, I'm thinking they're talking past each other. It sounds like he showed up, but that nothing penetrated. But what you just said is actually something worth following up on. So really appreciate that piece of breaking news. Thank you so much, Angela Reid.
No problem. Thanks, Joy.
All right.